You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope, the podcast. I'm your host, Jana Short. And today I'm super excited because I have a very amazing guest with us, Stacia Aashna. Stacia is a life coach, a certified clinical hypnotherapist, and a registered yoga teacher. She graduated from Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, where she studied hypnotherapy, I cannot say it, and I'm an NLP instructor, so neurolinguistic programming and life coach. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Stacia is a past life regression therapist and a registered yoga teacher with a specialty in working with victims of trauma. In addition, she is a certified in the Covington Method for treatment of anxiety through Hypnosis Institute International School, and she is trained in the Gottman Method for couples therapy. Stacia has over 10 years of experience working in the field and doing clinical work. Through her work, she utilizes proven techniques, including therapeutic imagery, meditation, inner child work, regression therapy, the NLP thing, breathwork, and yoga. Stacia is available for individual sessions as well as group settings. And we are going to be going over how you guys connect with her during the show and after. And I am so sorry about that. But Stacia, honestly, I literally had a stroke a few years ago, and some words, I hear them beautifully in my head. And then when I go to say them, they get all jumbled up. So I'm actually surprised I got it through it as well as I did. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, and no need to apologize. Thank you so much for having me, Jana.
I am really excited to have you here because, first of all we ask all of our guests if they will share a story of hope. I honestly believe our stories are given to us for a reason, those beautiful journeys. And when we share them with others, we create the kind of change that maybe they're looking for. So do you want to share your story of hope with us today?
I would love to. Yeah, absolutely. I am such a big believer in sharing our stories too, for ourselves, for validating ourselves, for validating that it's safe for us to share authentically and vulnerably. And it's so healing for others as well, because I think a lot of the time we feel so disconnected from each other. And when we share our stories, we realize how connected we truly are. So I guess, there's my story of hope. It's been quite a journey for me. You listed all the things that I do today. But if you had asked me, when I was a teenager, if I could have ever imagined that I'd be in this place, I would have never imagined that. I experienced as a teenager clinical depression, and I was suicidal. As a result, as an adult, I have lived with PTSD, with complex PTSD, and really unmanageable panic attacks for a long time, up until my mid-20s. And this was because I grew up in traumatic experiences. So my life was so difficult, just the day to day, just managing all of this emotional turmoil, living with that, and having triggers for people who live with complex PTSD. It's so challenging because sometimes when those triggers are going to be triggered, and then sometimes they just happen. And if you live with it, how also embarrassing it can be to try to fit into a world where not everybody understands trauma. But it is improving, which I'm so grateful for. And I'm grateful for just how much mental health has become a lot less taboo, especially in the last 5 years, the discussion around it. But for me, I lived with it for so long, and I still do, but I'm able to manage those triggers much, much better. But yeah, I lived with that, and I would have, from when I was feeling triggered, I would have panic attacks to the point where I would start to hyperventilate. Often my body would just go into tetany and lock up, and I would pass out. So it's very severe panic attacks. And so so my journey has taken me, into all of that and living with it. And then getting to the point where I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I need to really get help. And so I've been very committed for about 15 years to just truly like working through this stuff. And with the help of wonderful therapists and support groups and coaches and other guides, my meditation teacher, I was able to learn skills that really helped me to go into these places of myself, to visit these parts of me that had been traumatized and to unburden them from that trauma so that I could live a better life. And then also to be able to, in turn, sit with others who have been through similar experiences and help guide them into those places inside of themselves so that they can actually liberate themselves and feel more free and just have better lives. So that's some of my story, and I hope it's inspiring in some way to others.
It's inspiring to me. And one of the things that I really am so glad that you brought up is that it is important for us to understand that not everybody understands trauma or how to deal with it or how to question it, or even people going through trauma don't know how to ask for help or how to get out of that vicious cycle that as we get these trauma issues in us, they just grow as we allow them to stay in our system,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
They get bigger and bigger until they create a space where we can't even move or breathe in.
Yes, that is such a good point. And that's the thing. It's like, if we don't address it, they don't go away. And I know why people don't address these things, because it's scary. I don't like, in a lot of ways, I don't blame you for being, like anybody that's scared of going there and doing the work, I can't blame you. I understand that. But as you said, like, it just compounds as we get older, it just, those thought patterns, those habits, all of them become more ingrained in us. And, you don't have to live that way either. You can, there are tools and people out there that can help you.
I know that as a neurolinguistic person and someone who works with hypnotherapy, that you really do understand that a lot of these traumas are back when we were children, that we saw as a small child or overheard, or it may not even been directed at us, and we dealt with it in our brains where they were, and us not having the tool or the control to change that outcome. And they just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then something happens in your life as an adult that triggers that. And all of a sudden, this emotions or these responses come from out of nowhere, really. And we don't know how to deal with them. I noticed that you said that you struggled as a teenager with depression. And that is huge right now, because there are a lot of teenagers struggling with depression. And I have developed this group it's about talking about mental health. And who's mental health for? It's for everybody. Like, mental health isn't for someone who you think is broken. It is for all of us. And wherever they're at in this journey, wouldn't you agree that you're not broken? You're just in a space of your journey that you might be stuck in at the moment, and reaching out and finding someone like Stacia that can help you pass that and give you the tools to create that space is so empowering.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to hear that you're doing that sort of work too, Jana. I just have to say that. And it's so needed to have those conversations. And as broken as you might feel, inside of all of us, I believe the core of us, there is this space that is, that embodies qualities like courage and compassion and consciousness, and like this strong center inside of us that everybody has. And no matter how broken you are, it is there. And that when you connect with that, you can extend that to all of those parts of you that are feeling broken, and sort of integrate them back into that space, and unburden yourself from, whatever traumas you might still be carrying. Because what happens is, like you said, we go through these traumatic experiences, and as children, we have no idea how to process them. And if you grow up in an environment where you don't have healthy support, and not because, that's usually not intentional, it's just that maybe your parents didn't know how to give that to you, then it makes sense that, you would just kind of repress that because you don't know how to deal with it. And then you would develop, a whole slew of defense mechanisms to keep yourself safe, but none of that goes away. It just gets buried. And in that, we also repress other aspects of ourselves. Like when a child goes through trauma, that usually means that they will repress other, other qualities inside of themselves, like their innocence or, talents and creative faculties that they have. When I do inner child work with my clients and we do regression into a person's childhood, often part of that journey is reclaiming parts of themselves that they lost touch with because of what they experienced. And trauma, it doesn't have to be like major traumas. It could be simply just like conditioning, like having, just going to school, and having other children, maybe judge you and tell you, make fun of you for being a certain way. Then, maybe that could make you repress parts of your authentic self. And that happens to a lot of us, is we just, we go into the world and we just try to fit in. But in that fitting in, we often lose touch with parts of ourselves.
So I think, Stacia, that a lot of people don't understand the power of our brain. Like literally, I tell people all the time, everything you need for anything you want is right between those beautiful ears. You don't need more of anything. It's literally within you. And so we are blocking ourselves sometimes from abundance, from those beautiful things. We're the people in the way, not something or someone else. And when we start addressing why we're blocking those things from us, it's crazy. I know that someone told me I had a money block and I laughed. I'm like, I don't have a money block. I'm perfectly comfortable with taking money. I have money. But when they pulled my money block from me, it was my mom not doing the wrong thing, trying to make sure I had what she perceived as a beautiful life. And women didn't go to college. And when I asked if I could go to college, she says, no, be careful. If you are smarter than your husband, he'll feel insecure and it'll wreck your marriage. If you make more money than your spouse, they won't feel like a man. It'll wreck your marriage. And her idea of a perfect relationship for me was to stay home and take care of that man so that he could be the provider and never provide for myself. So I dummied down everywhere I went. I would be in a boardroom. I dummied down because it was surrounded with men and thought my opinion didn't matter. I don't want them to feel emasculated, right? And it wasn't until I got in my 50s that I was able to pull that beautiful memory up and realize that I had been holding myself back. And when I let it go, I can tell you it was not only freeing, but everyone appreciated it around me. Like I literally had, my husband told me you could go make as much money as you want and be as smart as you'd like. I'm totally okay with that.
I love that.
But it's weird how like we as parents tell our kids something that they blow up in their head as something different. And we do it out of love. My youngest daughter is 6 foot tall. She wanted to play football and she came to me with a football notice to sign, giving her permission. And my words to her were, no, girls do not compete with boys. Like it's not okay. And I will not sign that. And so in her head, all her life, and she's in her 30s now, she's a doctor, so I'm super proud of her, but she's always been afraid to compete in any level with men. But I was doing that as a mom to protect her. I wish that I had set her down and had more of a conversation so that she didn't take that away. But our words are very powerful. And we may not even know that we're putting a little cuff on somebody we love, holding them back. But when I met someone exactly like you, Stacia, and they were able to help me work with what was really going on, and I was able to recognize that now as an adult. Now that I actually have more control, I'm not a child anymore. I have control of my own destiny and change those things. It was freeing.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love that you had that experience of you found somebody to help you realize that you had that money block, that you didn't even like, you were like, oh, I'm fine. I love accepting money. But then you could still see that, you still had some of that conditioning. And that makes total sense. I mean, probably most, if not all women experience some of this, like just feeling like, they need to be dependent on a man to some extent for money, or just that they're limited in some way in terms of, and it's not just women that experience this, obviously. I grew up poor. So I had total money blocks. It wasn't just that I felt unworthy of money. I also had a pride in being poor, and judgments against criticism towards people who had money. And I had to totally dive into that, because what it was doing was keeping me stuck in this place of almost like sabotaging myself. So when I would make money, I would figure out ways unconsciously to sabotage that for myself. And I had such a hard time when I worked in the corporate world before I did this work, of asking for things like raises. I could do the work of so many people and I would never ask for more. So I realized, just stepping back, and like you, I had help of people to really point out what was going on. I was caught up in these cycles, and they totally made sense based on, my upbringing. Like, we can't avoid it. It's just whatever is modeled to us through our parents, through our families, and also through the culture that we grew up in. That's what we will recreate until we can see, like you said, we have this power and we can change things. It takes effort, but you can change these patterns in your life.
So I know that when I talk to a lot of coaches, they think it's beneath them, or that they are saying that they are broken if they reach out to another coach. And I'm going to tell you that is not accurate. Like, it's empowering for me to stay in my zone of genius and to find someone like Stacia who it lives in her zone of genius to help me through that. And so one of the ways I do it is, I know I'm not broken, but I also know every day I can show up better. And how do I do that? By getting the right help. So one of the things I do to help me do that is, I have every year, what would I like to work on this year on myself? How can I show up better as a wife, as a mother, as a grandmother, as an entrepreneur? How can I show up better? And I pick what I would like to tackle. I find the right coach and I spend the year working with them, sometimes more than a year. If we're really getting somewhere, that's amazing. And I'm able to learning in my 60s now that I'm not broken. Just because I have something I need to work on doesn't make me broken. It makes me in that part of the journey that I'm needing to now move past that. So for those of you who think that if you're depressed, you're broken, if you have all these issues, you have an eating disorder, you're not broken. You're in a very special part of your journey that at this point, maybe you need to reach out and say, I can't do this alone. I don't have the skills to get through it. I don't even know why it's happening to me. And reaching out to someone like Stacia to get that help.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no need to do it alone. There's just so many resources, and there is absolutely no way that I would be here in this place that I am today if it weren't for amazing therapists, coaches, therapy practice groups, support groups. And I have an internal family systems therapist that I work with, and I'm a part of multiple therapy practice groups. I have a business coach. I have a hypnotherapist for myself. And, I have so many wonderful teachers that I have around me that are my support system and help me to be better. So I'm a big proponent of that as well. And I'm all about, just continuing to grow and expand my skills and take care of my mental health as well. But yeah, I know so many of us just really think that we can do it all. We can do it all on our own. We can do just the self work, and I really truly think that's limited. And it's wonderful if you're doing the self work, but if you can get a guide that can really help guide you into these places inside of yourself, I think it's a lot easier to not get stuck in places, because the mind has some sticky places that you can get caught up in. So it's nice to have somebody to help you navigate that.
100%. One of the things on my list to do is regression and inner child work, but I don't know can you tell us what the difference of those two are and who would benefit from that?
The difference of regression and inner child work?
Yeah.
So, I mean, well, inner child work is a form of regression. So I do age regression, and regression could be to any point in your life, right? So even into later adult stages of life. So I regress people, I have, for example, some people who've had traumatic divorces later on in life, and we need to go back and work with parts of them that, were really affected by those experiences. But with inner child work, we would regress, back into childhood to really like a lot of the origin, where the origin of a lot of our issues lies. And I do that work one-on-one with people. It's a huge part of my work. And it's I use hypnosis. So it's a form of hypnosis. I'll use age regression hypnotherapy to guide people back into those memories in childhood. And the wonderful thing about hypnotherapy is, since we're not working with the active mind, we're working with the unconscious mind, we can really recall a lot of things from childhood that we repress, like I said earlier, that we repressed really deep, and they might not, we might not even be conscious of them. Actually, a lot of it is totally, we're totally unconscious of. So I have clients all the time that will recall memories and things that they had no recollection of in their, in their active mind, but through going into a trance state, they're able to recall those things. And through that, we can actually recover parts of ourselves, like I said, and parts of us that might have gotten stuck in the past that are still affected by them. And as a result, those patterns, the patterns that we created from those experiences that are still playing out, it might not actually be what we want in life. We can actually change and alter those patterns so that you can have a life that is more congruent with what you truly desire.
You know what? I love that you brought up your hypnotherapy work, because I'm an RTT practitioner, and that's what I went back to school for, because I loved it so much that I wanted to become a therapist, hypnotherapist. Having said that, I still run into people who are terrified of the word hypnosis. They still think about you taking control or emptying out their bank accounts, or like, you're going to tip me $5,000 when you leave today. You have more control under hypnotherapy than any possible place you could be. Like, you are in complete control. All it is getting you relaxed enough to access things that when your busy mind's going, you can't. And so I like people to understand it's a safe space. You're not going to quack like a duck when you hear the doorbell ring, So, and the people that do that, they take a lot of care with the fact that you're entrusting them to relax, to be vulnerable, and to access those things on that journey with us. So I love that you brought that up, because I think it's phenomenal. Kind of gets rid of 20 years of therapy if you can get there quicker. There's the memory we're looking for right there, instead of years of talking to get to that memory, right?
Yes. I mean, I say that my work is 100 times faster than traditional therapy, because we're not, when you're doing talk therapy, and I'm not trying to, diss talk therapy, because I think that it's also very useful. But for getting to the root of the problem, because we're not working with the active mind, because we're going into those unconscious spaces, we can get there so much quicker, and as a result, you can find relief so much quicker. And you're totally right. There's still stigma attached to hypnosis, and a lot of that is because it's how it's portrayed in the media. People think that it's a form of mind control, and it is not. There is a line that hypnotherapists will often say that is all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, meaning you are in control. You're not. It's actually rare that people will go completely unconscious during a session. It's just a deep state of relaxation. So often my clients will remember pieces of the session. Sometimes they remember the entire session, but they're deeply relaxed. And so that active mind, those defense mechanisms, a lot of that just relaxes, and we can get to those, the root of whatever issue we're addressing much more quickly. And we can also start to integrate positive suggestions, post-hypnotic suggestions that will change and alter your behaviors, your mood, all of that in such a positive way. I do things, I work with a lot of issues, not just trauma, but also even things like smoking cessation, where I have clients who we clear up, a 20-year smoking addiction in a single session. It's very powerful work. But you're correct. I won't make you cluck like a chicken, and I won't empty your bank account. And trust is huge for me. And I feel so privileged to be in this position where people are so vulnerable and honest with me. So I take this role really, and it's really important to me that everybody feels safe when I'm working with them.
Everyone I've ever met says the same thing who does hypnosis. And for those of you who are still scared, if you meditate at all, you're pretty much putting yourself in a relaxed hypnosis state, which is why they tell you keep a notepad so you can write down all the things that popped up, because you're accessing these beautiful spaces in your brain that when you're too busy, you're not going there. And those people who have been doing meditation for very long periods of time, they get it. They know exactly what they're doing when they go and get into that relaxed state. So it's not scary, and you definitely have control. I would love it, Stacia, if you could tell us a little bit about your 6-month program.
Sure. So I have an offering. I do a 6-month one-on-one program with my clients. It is called Courageous Self-Embodiment. And self-embodiment to me is really connecting with that core part of you, and integrating those parts of you, like you said earlier, that might feel broken, and liberating them so that we can live a more self-embodied life, a more authentic life that is true to us. And that it is a beautiful journey to start to peel back some of the layers of the conditions, the to put it directly, the lies that were given to us about, who we are, the limitations, things that are keeping us stuck, to peel all that back and to really connect with our cores and to be that in the world. And through that, to live a more abundant life that is meaningful, that is impactful. So this six-month course is a real deep dive into that. You get a ton of support and one-on-one work with me. We do 2 90-minute sessions a month, and we do check-in calls between that. And you get access to my hypnosis playlist. This is a playlist of recordings that I've created that will help to recondition your mind and body. And then I also create a personalized hypnosis recording every month for my clients to make sure that they're really, on track and achieving the goals that they have set for, the duration of our time together. And I love it. Things change really quickly for people in a short period of time. And I am super passionate about that, because if I can help people, start to feel free, quick, and to live a better life in the span of 6 months, that's awesome. And I'm just so grateful to be able to do that with people.
Well, that sounds amazing. By the way, that might be my 2022 gift to myself, because I love doing stuff like that. And so if you guys, we're going to have those links for you where you can connect with Stacia, where you can learn more about what she's doing, and where you can tap into her 6-month program. I highly recommend that you guys invest in yourself, because you're worth it. When we show up better, we create better space for everyone we come in contact with. So I love that we're all healing and finding that beautiful journey together. So thank you so much for being with us today, Stacia.
Thank you so much, Jana.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.